Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG. With this, I'm going to kick off a new feature of this channel, and it's a commentary on the comments. We'll be going through the comments, starting at the most recent, and working our way down for 15 or 20 minutes and see if we come up with anything interesting. If there is a question in the comment, we'll give a stab at answering it. So I don't know what to call these comments on comments. Could be comment squared, but I've kind of settled on Commentariat. So that's what we'll call this. This is Commentariat number 1, and it is happening on the 8th of February, 2023. Man, I'm dating myself. Okay, so the first comment we're looking at over here is from David Hoover from an hour ago. Thanks for all you do. And I appreciate that very much. Thank you. From Harold McLeroy, I find all your videos very good. I'm an older person now and remember the old CB days growing up in the country. It was the phone in many cases. Look forward to learning all things DMR and working on tech in general. Thanks again for your videos. Well, I can remember when I was a teenager, we had a cabin out in the desert, and our only communications with the outside world was the Citizens Band radio. And it was indeed the kind of a local party line in the area. Of course, things have changed enormously with the cell phones, but yeah. Well, I hope you have good luck on your tech videos. Note that I do have a set of tech videos that goes section by section in parallel with the ARRL Tech Manual. And you will find those videos on the ARRL Headquarters YouTube page, and they're free there. Okay, next one is from John Terry, who just says, thanks. Thank you very much. This is on how high should a dipole be. This is the one where I came up with the idea of half wavelength probably being the best balance of all factors. By the way, should point out that David Hoover sent along $10 with his comment, and John Terry $25. Google takes their piece, and then these show up in my revenue from Google. Thank you very much. Okay, Bob Holowenko asks about a wireless lapel mic issue. There has been an issue. And in fact, just to make sure that there isn't an issue, okay, I'm plugging this into the recorder, so I'm hearing what I'm recording. And if there is any crackle, static, or pop or anything like that, I'll hear it. I'm worried that it's this microphone again right here. This is a new mic. I paid to go with the Rode. I used the Rode Link for the wireless. Oops, there you hear a few scratches. If that goes bad, I guess I'll have to get a new one, and they're not cheap. Okay, so Laser Hobbyist says the coupling loop changes the gain. Did you mean gain or coupling? Okay, the coupling loop has a minor impact on the gain. In fact, on the MFJ version, they advise you to try a few different shapes of that coupling loop on the magnetic pin. Whoa. Okay. Well, we're having a little problem there. Let me show you what I'm talking about when I talk about coupling loop. On the antenna. Let's go over here to the overhead. On a mag loop, you've got the loop here. Why is this doing that? I wonder if there's a short in there or something. Because I touch it and nothing happens. Okay. In the magnetic loop, now you've got the big giant capacitors up here on a lot of them. And this is, of course, variable. And then the coupling loop sits opposite the capacitor and disconnects to the cable. And although technically this is a balanced input, very often it's direct unbalanced to balanced hookup there. Now, the shape of this loop you can kind of squash it like this, or do things like that, will slightly change the amount of coupling and thus the amount of gain in the antenna. So it can mean either one, and this is something that you can do with those antennas. Boy, I can't figure out where well, okay. I'll try it out here and see if that works. Maybe over here. Okay, so the coupling loop, that's this inner loop right here, okay? And by changing the shape of it slightly, you can change the amount of coupling and thus the overhead gain. Okay, Jerry Sherrar says, laughing out loud, used insulated wire for ground wires because we don't want our ground plane touching ground. Got it. Well, actually, if you're trying to create a ground plane, sure. But what we're usually doing with radials is creating what's technically counterpoise, the other half of the antenna. I prefer myself that those be insulated so that they don't get messed up with the ground. You can make them bare, but if you bury them, then what you end up doing is creating a ground wire, or a ground. A ground is resistive, whereas the radial set is more capacitive and acts more reactively and works with the antenna as it does its thing. Now, there is one ground point for those, and I'll show you what it is. We'll go over here to the overhead. If you've got your antenna, this is plan view, so looking from above, and you see the radials going out like this. Okay, the radials are attached to a radial ring. DX Engineering has an excellent radial connector. And then if you want to put in a ground rod, you put it right there in the middle. That's the way my good vertical is put together, is a ground rod right there. And then you run the cable off to the lightning arrestor where the outside of the cable is grounded again, which helps very much limit the wrong stuff getting in the wrong place. Okay, let's see. Alan Campbell, not quite ground but close, was thinking of using the steel bars in a fence, not the mesh itself, as the counterpoise from my random length long wire. Any thoughts on that? Well, there should be one counterpoise and one connection to the ground that you use. And if you want to use the steel bars in the fence, great. But get some hose clamps. Put a hose clamp on each of the pieces of wire and put a piece of wire between them so that you are connecting those all together. John GJRWF says, best wishes, regards Dave, and adds £5 to the channel funds on the overview of Yagi's. Thank you. Now, Steve Genoway says, Yagi is okay, but log periodic is much better for full band coverage. If it were much better, I would be saying use log periodics for everything, but the problem is a log periodic will give you about max 10 dB gain. It will do it across the entire HF spectrum, that is true. However, the amateur bands do not cover the HF spectrum. That's why Yagis have specific dimensions. If they're built right and coupled right, they should cover the whole band. If they don't, it's because the Q is quite high, but you can look at different ones and make sure that they cover the whole band. It is true that a log periodic will definitely cover the whole band, plus if you're doing any Mars work or anything like that, or even if you want to do some shortwave listening and know in which direction the transmitter is, you can get nice little gain for that. Log periodic antennas are quite expensive and they're big. So it sounds like Steve has a log periodic and is very happy with it. Hey, dipole, mast, boom, directors. I'm going to need a remedial class. Well, a dipole is just that, a half-wave length of wire, pipe, whatever. The mast is the thing that holds it up in the air. The boom is the thing that extends out horizontally to hold the various elements. The directors are the front elements of the Yagi, and then the reflector is the very back one, and the one that you actually drive is the driven element, which I think is explained in the brief overview of Yagis. I don't view a Yagi as a beginner's antenna because it adds the additional problem of having to aim it, and that becomes a problem in and of itself. Rotators are quite expensive. Okay, this is Shizoltz. Says, thank you, sir. Very much appreciated info on the sound card and the signal length. Thank you. Ham radio economy style is his name. I understand, I thought I could be wrong, that boom length increases gain and number of radials narrows the beam width. Well, the boom length can increase the gain. The only way you can increase the gain on an antenna is to increase or to further compress the beam. So the bandwidth, or not the bandwidth, I'm sorry, but the beam width has to narrow for the gain to go up. So if you lengthen the boom, that will tend to narrow the beam, which means that the gain will go up. Gain and beam are directly equivalent. Think of a flashlight. It's an ordinary light bulb, and you put a reflector behind it, and you aim the light, okay? And that light can be very strong, but it's just because it's aimed. It's almost black in every other direction. And that's the same way that a Yagi works. As boom length increases gain. Now, radials are not usually a subject that comes up with Yagis. Yagis don't need radials. Not to say they'll hurt, but they don't need radials because the radials are on the ground or in the air or whatever, but a Yagi doesn't need radials. It has a reflector, the driven element, and several directors that are in front of it. The thing that connects them all together is the boom, and the mast is what they're on. And mast is often on top of a tower. Okay. I once used chicken wire fencing according to ham radio economy style. It corroded severely in about 10 months. I believe that. I think they're made of galvanized steel. And wherever they're wrapped together, it can rub through the galvanizing part. And then it's the steel that's exposed, and the steel will rust and corrode. Curious to see the box earth grounded instead of counterpoise. See the box earth grounded. I'm actually sitting there very close to my ground rod. It's right there. The ground rod is right there. I used a short piece of coax, and it went to that ground rod right there. I suppose I could have done that. I much prefer, this is an end-fed multiband antenna by MFJ. I much prefer the My Antennas version of it. It's far more versatile and I think has a better balance in it. So this is a case where I'm not going to recommend the MFJ, which is unusual for me because I do normally recommend the MFJ equipment. Wes Hawkins, I've been binge watching your videos. I had a technician license since the mid-90s, a novice license first obtained in '86. You've rekindled my interest in the hobby. I've got a couple of Yaesu HTs and an older Kenwood TS120 my father-in-law gave me 30 years ago so I could listen in. He says he's got more here. I'm working on studying for my general license now. Okay, so you were a tech, and of course you'd have to, if that's expired, you'd have to pass that again. If you'd had a general back then, all you would have to do is take the tech and the general would automatically be restored. But it looks like you're going to need to take the general, and good luck to you. Note that I do have a set of videos that correspond with the ARRL guide, license manual for general. They are behind the ARRL paywall, so you have to be a member of the league, which you should be anyway. And that's $50 a year. And if you go to learn.arrl.org and use your ARRL credentials to log in, you will end up in the place where you can find the training videos in there. Okay, so let's see, where have I been? So Dave, are you saying you was off goofing off? Yeah, didn't feel like goofing off. It was quite the high adventure with all the terrible weather we encountered. Would love to visit Telluride someday. I would suggest you do it sometime between late spring and early fall, because otherwise it's winter. Now, of course, winter is their big season because of the ski resort there. And you would enjoy that very much if you're a big into skiing. We did have a good time. There were some issues. I still have an issue with the heater not running. Fortunately, it broke in the last night, so I've got to figure out what that is. Get a flashlight and go digging and see if a fuse is blown or something. So, yeah, we did make it. You may need to coordinate with the FAA if you live near an airport. Search FAA notice criterion tool. If you do, even tiny airports without a tower, I can have a 69-foot antenna without triggering a notice requirement. This is Bob Smith, and in response to overview of Yagis, the thing about the Yagis, or it involves a tower usually. Now, I would think a Yagi that will do, I want to show you something on the overhead, is about 35 feet above the ground. Your beam width going out is going to look like this. Okay? But if it's above 33 feet, you're going to bifurcate like that. And if you go even higher, you'll trifurcate. Okay? Some people love their 100-foot towers, and yeah, you can really lower one of those beams, but this other energy is lost. So you got to put it in an amplifier to really make it work and stuff like that. There are DX stations that will put Yagis at several locations on a tower, up and down, to take advantage of this to see which one of these will work the other station better. Okay, so that's a problem with bifurcating or trifurcating your signal by putting it up higher. The optimum, in my mind, height for a Yagi that does 20 would be 33 feet. So a 35-foot tower comes pretty close, and you'll be fine. On the bands above, it's going to bifurcate. It just is. But 20 meters is a major DX band, so go ahead. Do whatever you like. Now, let's talk about the FAA. There is a requirement that ham radio towers be no higher than 200 feet without permission from the FAA. And what you're going to end up having to do is put a blinking light on top of it, and it will appear on notice to airmen and stuff like that. As you get closer to airport, there's a formula for how tall that thing can be. And you say it's your area 69-foot antenna. As you get closer to the airport, it's basically the height of the airport fence. This is so people don't run into it, even if you put a red light on top of it. So, and they're really, really, really picky about these things. This right here And I'll put it over here on the overhead. This right here is how they show towers on the map. And they show the height, and they show all the kinds of things that go on with it there for towers that are above a certain height. Okay, but yes, you do not want airplanes tangling with your tower. Okay, I think we'll stop there for today. This is our chance to take a look at some comments and just kind of see what people are saying. I'm going to try to do this every week. That means I won't get to all the comments, unfortunately, but we'll get to some of them. We'll see what people are having to say. So, there you have it. Now, I do have my usual little pitch here, okay? If you would like to become a patron, go to patreon.com/KE0OG. And until we next meet, 73.